Yeah, they don't show you the real beach in this intro in Malibu with chunks of housing washing up and body parts and stuff from the fires. I mean, it's not as pristine. This might be have been shot before the Palisades and Malibu fires. But welcome to episode 4. Who knows? I can't believe we've done 3 of these and have not gotten arrested yet. This seems to be far easier than I imagined in my mind, which, of course, everything in my mind is a problem because of magical thinking and squirrels running around my brain. But that being said, this is episode 4. Hey, what's up, Scott? Is that a picture of Scott? This is episode 4. I can't believe this. This is the 4th week we're doing this crazy thing. And so far, technically, it's worked, which is always amazing to me as a Luddite. On the other channel, I got Eric, who knows everything. But here, it's every man for himself. Natalie, how's it going? There's a lot of people from the other channel, so we know them from meetups and stuff like that. Maybe we'll have our own meetup someday. I'm not going to travel with you. You're going to have to come to Southern California for a meetup with myself if we get enough people to follow the channel. That being said, you can push the like button. You can push the subscribe button. That's the thing. We have no locals. We have no Rumble. This is just YouTube. Old school, like and subscribe. I don't know how that got there. You can follow me on X. You may get blocked if you go completely berserk. You could then come back after being in the penalty box for a month. But I wanted to tell you about this thing before we get started. I'm going to bring in Stephen Gibb in a couple of minutes. Old friend, total musician, total rock and roll lifestyle, total rock. Well, maybe not now because he's married and got 2 adult kids. But he has a past. It's dark and nefarious, and he's got a family. We'll discuss it. It's pop culture stuff. That's what this channel is. It's rock and roll. It's music. It's comedy. It is a conversation. These are not really interviews. These are friends of mine from show business who I know in the real world for reasons that still confuse me. But my dad, my dad was a big band jazz drummer, and maybe that's how I got into this thing in the womb. This guy, Martin, on the board. Look at Martin with a YouTube member. Like, I know what that even means at this point in my major league career here on YouTube. But thanks for joining, whatever the hell it is you just joined, because I have no idea. But I got to tell you about this stuff that I'm addicted to now, and it's not cocaine. It's not meth. It's this biltong from South Africa. We have a friend named Anton who you may see him on Viva's channel. This is biltong, biltongusa.com, with this guy, Anton, who is originally from South Africa. He now lives in Texas, where he's making this biltong by hand, forcing his wife at gunpoint, according to him, to work with him. He's got 5 kids. He's homeschooling, not taking any chances with the school systems of Texas, and I don't blame him. This guy has made this product, which I am now addicted to. He mailed me, unfortunately for me, another 2 bags of this stuff. And it's like the gourmet beef jerky. It's like, having French food as opposed to having McDonald's in terms of gourmet material. This is like filet mignon steak as beef jerky. And if you order from his website, which has a lot of other stuff on there, it has cookies and cakes, and the biltong is the main thing. You get these 2 bags in a box. It kind of looks like this, like in that picture. You get this in a box, right? And it comes with an ice pack and everything else. You put it in the freezer, and you can eat it out of the bag. But this is what I just realized I found, is he gives you this dental floss, and it's a godsend once you get into eating this biltong stuff, because let me tell you what biltong is. I just got to tell you what it is, because I didn't know anything about this before we started the channel. It's a form of air-dried cured meat which originated in South Africa. You'll love this, Stephen. South African countries include South Africa, Zimbabwe, Namibia. Various types of meat are used to produce it, ranging from beef to game meats, including ostrich and kudu. I don't know what kudu is. The cut may also vary, being either fillets of meat cut into strips, following the grain of the muscle, or flat pieces sliced along the grain. It is related to beef jerky, as both are spiced dried meats. However, and here's the technical difference, The typical ingredients, taste, and production processes differ. Biltong is air dried, which gives it a unique texture and flavor, whereas jerky is heated to at least 160 degrees Fahrenheit. The word biltong is from the Afrikaans, from bil, meaning buttock or ass, and tongue, meaning strip or tongue. The meat preservation goes back in history, you know, where they were putting it underneath their saddle, the Dutch pioneers. The drying process helped to provide a reliable, rich source of protein because you didn't have refrigerators in South Africa in the 1600s. So this is what they did. But let me tell you something. This guy's refined the process to where it seems like you're eating slivers, soft, moist slivers of filet mignon. I would try it if I were you. If you don't like it, you know, whatever. But he's got a full menu there. You could put your, according to this, you could put your phone up to that squiggly thing there, whatever they call that, the QR code, and you'll see the entire menu. But if you put in Mark G, you'll get about 10% off, maybe exactly 10% off from everything on the menu. And it's vast. There's other things on there. Try it. You will freak out. I had no idea what this was until Viva turned me on to it, via Anton, who is now an American living here among us from South Africa. As many of you have heard, people are fleeing South Africa who have pale skin color and coming here because things are so ugly over there. This guy brought this process with him, and it would really help out this new super patriotic citizen named Anton, and it's biltongusa.com is where you should go to get this thing after the show, during the show, whenever you get bored. But I think you'll get a real kick out of it. You may drop the beef jerky. It's just 100% pure protein. There's no fat, there's no carbs, there's no nothing. So for my audience, that's a complete group of fat bastards. This may be the greatest product to ever come down the line for you. So you can lose weight and just sit there watching whatever sports event you people watch. Obviously, race car driving is the #1 sport out here. So biltongusa.com, code Mark G, 10% off. Okay, I got that. Now let me just get into this thing for a second here, because I want to tell you about this guy, Stephen Gibb. Stephen Thadeus Crompton Gibb, born whenever, is a British-American guitarist. He's been a member of numerous bands. Sergeant Willie just became a YouTube member. Thank you, Sergeant Willie, for your service. He's been in bands such as 58, Black Label Society, Crowbar, Kingdom of Sorrow, The Underbelly, Skillet Head, and Saigon Kick, all of whom are probably not playing at your kid's bar mitzvah. If you look at this photo on the right, here's his dad, his mom, and a little version of him back in the day. Gibb was born in London, England, raised in Miami. He's a firstborn son, as I indicated, Barry Gibb and Linda Gibb, who's there on the right. At the age of 3, began playing piano, but when he was about 13, I think he stumbled in or went to a Van Halen gig and switched from piano to guitar, and he never looked back. Now, his newest band, which he has now, which is the videos for this band, which is called Kill the Robot, are I don't know who's making these videos, and maybe Steve will tell us about it. These videos for Kill the Robot are absolutely fantastic. Truly showcase. Kill the Robot's debut self-titled album is due to release July 11th via Dark Lab Recordings. It's eclectic, decisively cohesive piece of work produced by multi-Grammy Award-winning Warren Riker, who produced the Fugees, Lauryn Hill, Santana. It takes the listener on a journey that incorporates massive stadium rock anthems akin to the Foo Fighters. That's not a bad analogy. I thought about that when I was looking at it. The prog of Pink Floyd and Steve Wilson, hints of Killing Joke darkness, and adds a hefty dose of 80s UK pop and electronica, a la Thomas Dolby, Howard Jones, Tears for Fears. I haven't heard of them in a while. And even mid-career, Adam Ant. Think about Adam Ant, my friends. He got into trouble once. The band have now presented the first taste of the album with a new single, Western Shores. I can't play it for copyright infringement because of YouTube. It doesn't matter that Steve's here, but I will put a link down below in the description for all of these things regarding his band. including this video, which is unbelievable for Western Shores. It's a touching tribute to his friend, Foo Fighters drummer Taylor Hawkins. It was written a day after we learned Hawkins had passed, explains Stephen Gibb. We're all heartbroken. You can see the video down below after the show. And there's a little bit more here about Stephen working with Motley Crue's Nikki Sixx in 58, and Zakk Wylde and a bunch of other guys. But Kill the Robot is one of my favorite new bands, and I think you may want to go on to Spotify after the show and purchase or at least sample some of the cuts. And now, because I have nothing else to do but bring on my old friend Stephen Gibb into the show, and we could begin the bullshit together as if we were in my living room, which Stephen has been before. And now, where are you, in Miami, Steve? Or
I am. I'm in an undisclosed bunker south of West Palm Beach.
Oh, okay. How far south of West Palm Beach?
Far enough.
Okay.
I'm down here in Miami.
I thought so. How's Gloria?
She's doing great. Thank you for asking.
How are the kids? What about you? What about you?
Amazing.
The last time I left, episode 9, your daughter was going to some advanced art dance school or something up north. I forget. Is that true?
Yeah, she's still doing that, and my son is at Micah in Baltimore for sculpture.
Oh, so my God! Okay,
I got 2 artsy kids, and my wife's an artist, and you know, I guess I'm a musician.
Well, you had very little chance to escape based on your relatives. I think you had. Look, you know, it'd be great if you turned out to be an auto mechanic and you just had like BG's transmission and parts in North Miami. And they come in and they go, "Are you really the son of Barry? Yeah. You want to leave the car?" And you go, "Yeah, I'll leave the car. I'll fix it up."
I mean, I'm not far from it. I'm more of a, you know, a human mechanic. You know, I'm intrigued with how to help people.
Well, tell me about the new band before we go back in time. Tell me what's going on now.
Yeah, well, we just released a single, Western Shores. You said that at the top there, and that video was done by Jacob Shepard. Some of our other videos were done by Brian Fitzpatrick. We have a record. Our first album, full length, is coming out July 11th. It'll be available everywhere, and you can go to Kill the Robot Band on Instagram or any of these other spots to find us. Spotify, obviously, and yeah, it's a new band. You know, it's nothing more enjoyable than launching a new band at my advancing age.
Well, that's got to be fun. But let's go back to 58. What happened to 58?
I still don't know. To be honest,
seems to know. What happened to 58, bro? With Nikki Sixx in it and Dave Darling and Bucket Baker on drums.
Yeah, we made one record, and I think Nikki wanted it to be like an internet band before there was really an internet.
And he was ahead of his time with Motley Crue and doing things
without a doubt. And he also, you know, I think he really he really sort of found what he wanted to do with that 6 a.m. project that he did after he got back with Motley. And, you know, at that point I'd already started playing with Black Label Society, and, you know, paths diverge and whatever. So it's all good, as they say. You know, he gave me a job when I was fresh in Los Angeles, not really knowing where I was going with anything, you know. Right. So I'm grateful for the opportunity. And
how's your dad doing, by the way, health wise? Is he cool? Or
yeah, he's his
this guy's like a dog of war. I mean, nothing seems to bother this guy.
I think there's a lot more that bothers him than you might
okay, all right, well,
especially, you know, nowadays the way things are. But no, he's doing very well. He's I think he's over in England right now. I'm house sitting for him.
Oh, you're over there? Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's
over there. Are you
there.
touring with him now, or what's the deal with you and him musically?
Well, I think my dad is happily retired now. You know,
oh, thank God. It's about time, Stephen.
You know, I mean, you know, to be fair, I was thinking about this the other day. He never really had a normal job. Like, he just started being a musician when he was like 10 years old, and that's what he always did.
There's a photo of the 3 brothers when they're like 10 years old, where they have a big guitar between the 3 of them, and it looks like they're 9, 10, and 11 years old, and they're already in the business.
Let me
take a look at this photo real quick. Maybe you could tell me what's going on here.
Yeah, I think that was that might have been when they did like one of their first little kind of, novelty recording sessions or something when they were
Right.
very, very early on. I mean, that's just right when they were starting out. Wow.
Well, let's go back to 1955, the Isle of Man. What is going on with the rattlesnakes on the Isle of Man?
Well, I think
First of all, tell us what the Isle of Man is, because not
the island
everybody, I mean, I don't know what the Isle of Man is.
well, the Isle of Man is a very small island. It's part of the British Isles, and my dad was born there. It's home, famously, of the Isle of Man TT races, the motorcycle races that
Oh,
go around the.
interesting. Oh, I see it
And
on the bottom, the very bottom of this map. That
there
red
you
little
go.
dot is the Isle of Man.
Yes,
Wow.
and yeah, yeah. They dad was born there, and then I guess they were in Manchester for a bit, and then in the UK
Right.
before they moved to Australia. In I want to say my dad was probably still pretty young, not even a teenager yet.
Well, do you remember this band he was in 1958 called the Wee Johnny Hayes and the Blue Cats or something? One of the
I
crazy, I mean, there's so many configurations of your dad and your uncle's musical careers. Well, apparently, your dad, kind of like the Traveling Wilburys or something, played a character named Johnny Hayes.
Well, I think, they originally, if I'm not mistaken, started out as more kind of vaudevillian in a
Yeah,
way. Like they were they thought of themselves like, oh, we're just making up these little skits and we're funny and we're cute kids and we can sing a song and la di da. Like, I don't know that it was all that serious for them. It was really how do we make a little bit of coin and survive living on the beach there in Australia.
well, this is in Brisbane, I presume, like Northeast
Correct.
Brisbane, right? And so the Bee Gees themselves, the name, from what I recall, is not the brothers Gibb. It's like Barry, Gates, and Good, like two of the promoters or something, Steve.
Well, they couldn't think of a witty, fun name that anybody really could agree on, I think. And so there was several people in the room at that time. It was Barry Gibb, Bill Gates, not the Bill Gates that we know
Right, right.
today,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
different guy back in he was a disc jockey in Australia. And Barbara Gibb, my father's mother, and somebody said, "Oh, well, look at all the Bee Gees, like it could be the Bee Gees or
Oh,
something to
that's what
that
I figured.
effect."
Yeah, because
And and
everybody can. Yeah, go ahead.
and it also brothers Gibb
Yeah.
kind of lumps in nicely. Yeah, we're the brothers Gibb, we're the Bee Gees, and I think when you're a kid and you're looking, you just want to figure out what the name of your gang is. I guess
Right.
they probably would have liked to have been the Sea Lions by the time they were in the late 60s, but you're stuck with Bee Gees at that point.
Right. Also, look at this photo. Here's the that's the
Oh,
first
yeah.
album, right, Stephen? To
Yep.
sings and play. Yeah, this was their first album. Now, hold on. Before we get to this, because 1962, they open up for Chubby Checker at the
Hmm.
Sydney Stadium as an opening
Correct.
act. This is an obscure fact, and people don't remember that they opened for Chubby Checker, and they go, "Well, who's Chubby Checker? Let's twist again." The twisting craze is personified by this chubby black dude named Chubby Checker. That's all the rage of the Western Hemisphere at the time in 1962.
Yeah, no, it was a life-changing experience for them to just to be able to see
Yeah,
that guy, let
right.
alone, interact with him or play a show. So yeah, I mean, I think, they were clearly bitten by the bug. And obviously once the Beatles, I mean, obviously before the Beatles, there was, Elvis and Roy Orbison and lots of guys that they were influenced in Australia by, like Billy Thorpe and
Yeah.
people like that, Cole Joy. And yeah, I mean, I think the dream of any Australian really, especially back then, from what my dad tells me, was to go to America, to see the Hollywood, to be able to just like it has been for many years,
But
but
first, they're going to have to
but
make
it
it
was
back
hard.
to, yeah, they're going to have to make it back to the United Kingdom because they're living on Crib Island, which is some sort of
Correct.
converted Air Force base or airport or something. What the hell was Crib Island, Stephen?
I don't know, but you know what? When my dad, when they originally emigrated to Australia,
Yeah.
and even coming back, he said it. He goes, I spent weeks and weeks on these ships, going all over the world, stopping in Egypt, seeing the pyramids as a young kid, just
Wow.
because that's where they had to stop. Like these were the routes that people took,
Right, right,
and it
right.
took forever to get
Right.
tall
There was
ships.
no direct anything. You had to stop and pick up another couple of guys. This
Yeah.
is a shot from the
Whoa.
20s. This is from 1930, 1929
Wow.
of Crib Island and the beach bungalows that were there at the time. I guess this is some sort of a beach resort, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, my dad would always talk about the fact that like they never wore shoes, really.
Because of
So
this.
it
I mean,
was,
this,
yeah,
yeah,
this is how they lived, just
yeah.
very, very basic and happy to be outside in the sun.
Well, this lasts until 1967, but they do have this hit, Spicks and Specks, which is their first major hit, which is in Australia. I guess they take it with them
That's correct.
to UK in '67 before they give these tapes to Brian Epstein, the manager of the Beatles. And
Yeah.
Epstein either doesn't like it or wants to help out Robert Stigwood. I've never figured that out. Like, why does Epstein, who's rolling in '67 with the Beatles, give up these tapes to Stigwood?
Well, I mean, I'll never know the real story, but who knows? Maybe he owed him one.
Yeah, yeah.
There's always the favor thing, as you know, Mark.
Yeah.
People do things for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
But I genuinely think that at that time, what I believe is I think Epstein had his hands full with the Beatles.
Yeah.
Genuinely, and was probably like, I don't know, I can't have
maybe even physically, according to some of the biographies that you read.
Well, that remains to be, I don't know. But it was strange times. I've heard some stories.
Oh, wow. Well,
not necessarily Beatles of that
right
nature, but Stigwood, Epstein were, these were the Velvet Mafia guys.
Right. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, I thought
know?
they were both involved in that area of Velvet and maybe helping each other out. So all of a sudden, the band or the Bee Gees end up on the Top of the Pops with Jimmy Savile, Lulu, the Stones playing "Let's Spend the Night Together." I mean, that was like the epitome of UK rock television. Top of the Pops, right, Steve?
Yes, and actually, I believe if I'm not mistaken, that's where that day of the taping of that episode, my father met my mother, who was a co-host.
Oh, get out! Savile. Is that true?
With Jimmy Savile? Absolutely.
Oh my God! She may know where some of the bodies are buried regarding Savile's.
No, but my father, but he did. Listen, the true story.
Go ahead,
Savile. My mother was like Miss Edinburgh or something at the time, and Savile, I guess, her and my dad were having a cup of tea somewhere apparently, and Savile was like, "All right, well, you're coming with me," to my mother, and my dad goes, "Nah, she's going to be staying with me," and he was like, "No, she has to go with me," and my dad goes, "There's no way."
Oh my God! You mean come with me as an employee or as a
as like my mother was like, she might have been 17. Like, Jimmy Savile was supposed to be looking after my mom,
quote unquote.
But my mother says, he was creepy, but he didn't make a move until at the end of the day of taping or whatever.
Right.
He had said, "Oh, you're coming with me now," and at that point, her and my dad had already started chatting, and there was
your mother may have escaped. Your mother may have escaped the clutches of the notorious.
My father may have saved her life.
Your father saved her life.
Yeah.
Dude, he's like a guy on a white horse. Your dad saving her from the clutches of Jimmy Savile.
He was a bit of a horse rider back then.
Okay, so Epstein passes the demos to Stigwood. Top of the Pops happen. They do a cover of Otis Redding's "To Love Somebody," which I've never heard. I'd love to hear.
That's their song that Otis that was written for Otis Redding, and he died before he had the opportunity to record
no wonder I've never heard it. Okay, now I got it. Oh wow, I didn't know that. Got to Get a Message to You goes to #1 in the UK. Right, so that's starting. I started a joke. But what is with your dad's voice? Like, okay, he becomes.
Well, I started a joke as Robin's lead.
It's Robin. Okay.
Yes.
But when does your dad, and for what reason does he develop a falsetto voice? In like 19.
It was accidental. It was
okay. All right. It's a little confusing.
It was, I believe, it was during the recording of Tragedy, or it was one of the songs of the, I would say, mid 70s. It might not have been Tragedy,
right?
but I believe Arif, or maybe it was I believe it was Arif, asked Dad to go outside and try something different, like, something a bit more feminine, and maybe something
Mm,
lilting,
right.
or something to that degree. And Dad, I think, just went out there and did a few ad libs and sort of hit some. I think it started with a kind of like a vocal exercise he would do.
Wow.
He just started doing this thing to open up his voice, and he was like, yeah, just like that, keep doing that, and just make it be the lyric, or make it be just sort of ad lib with that character. And so that's kind of where it started
So,
from. And
but
then,
did Robin have it at first? Was he the one with the falsetto, or?
no, Robin was I mean, Robin had probably one of the most unique voices in
Yeah,
history. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
just a
yeah,
true diamond,
yeah.
unicorn type of voice. But Morris was like a kind of a chameleon who could sort of, harmonize however he needed to, within the way they would arrange their harmonies. And basically, I think the way Dad and Robin would divvy up the lead vocals as time passed on, it was sort of whoever wrote the melody and came in with the idea of
Right,
that section, that's your lead. And if
right.
you
But
don't have,
the bulk of these songs are written by your father.
yeah, but with the other two, I mean, I think
Right.
that he did a lot. He did do a lot alone, but I don't think any of these things would have been what they were without the sort of magical synergy of the three of their brains working together.
Well, tell me about the magical synergy. I mean, how did these brothers get along? Was one a bully? Did they were all friendly? Was one sarcastic? Did they all get along all the time? Did Robin want to bust out immediately? I mean, what was here? Here's all three of them. This is I have the same jacket. I wore it last night. The
It's upstairs.
upstairs, but the what was the relationship between the three brothers? If you were able to understand it.
I mean, I don't know that anybody could, to
Right.
be quite
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah. I know.
I think that the three of them were each other's best friends and enemies.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
were their own best friends and enemies, throughout
Well, it may be
a
like
lot of it.
Ray Davies and Dave Davies. It might have been like that kind of a thing.
I mean, family's difficult when it comes to
Yeah.
working together. And when you add you add, okay, creativity, it's like if everybody knows their spot, then it's great. But if there's a spotlight and that spotlight only shines on one person at a time, it doesn't matter who you are. Nobody's immune to that level of envy or jealousy that can cause, rife in these situations. I mean, look at the Jackson family. It's
I
like,
was thinking that too, and also
I,
George Harrison, who was always trying to get songs onto albums, uh, and wasn't able to.
well, and the thing is, if you're an evolving, growing artist, your ego there's a certain kind of an ego that it takes to put yourself out there, to think that you could possibly be interesting enough.
Right.
I mean, it's like stand-up comedy. I mean, the balls, excuse my language, the balls that it takes to get up in front of a room full of people and eat shit night after night until it clicks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a certain kind of person that signs up for that. And same with music. I think those parallels have existed for a long time for good reason.
Now, so when does Robin decide to go off on his own, and why?
I mean, really, they go into it very well in the Bee Gees
Oh,
documentary.
which I highly
How can
recommend,
you?
by the way, and we'll put
Yeah,
up a little poster from you're talking about the HBO documentary.
yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic documentary by HBO. If anybody wants to see a kind of an incredible history of this, it was done in 2020, so it's not that old. It was literally
No,
5 years ago, right?
yep. I think
It's
it
called How
came
to
out.
Mend a Broken Heart, Stephen, right?
How can you mend a broken heart? Yeah,
Yeah,
it basically came out right sort of around the pandemic time
yeah,
when the lockdown started. So in a way, we were fortunate in that there was a very captive audience at that time, because that
I'd say.
wasn't the original plan, but it was definitely to the benefit of the film, and I really believe that they did a fantastic job. I
Yeah, it's
have
a
to say.
fantastic job. Everything's in that documentary. What happened to the biopic, the Kenneth Branagh thing? Remember that was cooking for a while
I mean,
At Paramount.
it's a constant evolving thing. I think you've probably heard the stories about the Queen biopics, and
Yes.
and how long it can take to. I think first off, how long does it take to really find a script that works?
Right.
And I think in the case of the Bee Gees, um, which or how do you really tell the story? Because in a way, you want it to be the story that sort of introduces people to the music. You want people who maybe didn't grow up at a certain time to be exposed that in a way that is appealing and draws them in. But there's also 60 years, almost 60 years of incredible highs and lows throughout that you know you can't really tell that story in 2.5 hours.
No, I agree. I mean, there's two
It-
ways or three ways to skin that cat. What I would do, which was the big funeral in London? Was that Maurice's funeral or
that was
Robin's?
Robin
And
passed away
Robin's in 2012 when he dies at the age of
correct.
62. I would open there and flash back from Robin's funeral in London in 2012, and maybe a guy who's doing a book who's interviewing them, and you could flash back from the interviews just as a structure. It's just off the top of my
Yeah,
head as a
yeah.
screenwriter. I mean, you were at that funeral, right? And
Yeah, and I mean, actually, if you want to know the truth, in my opinion, we all knew in our family, I believe, and I'm, hopefully not speaking out of turn here, but I think the day that my uncle Morris passed away, which was
that's in
January.
2003 at the age of 53. I mean, that was
Yes,
definitely
and
premature, Stephen.
and should have been prevented. It was
Right, right.
totally preventable.
Very
But
sudden. Yeah.
yes, very sudden and tragic. And that when that happened, it happened so fast that it
Yeah.
rocked the family as a whole in such a way, because at that very moment we knew that that was we
There's
were
a
never
there's
gonna see those brothers sing again,
again,
and
yeah.
neither was the world, and that was
The show that I came to when you were at the Hollywood Bowl, like remember they were using holograms when you were playing in back of your dad. Remember that?
well, we were using video behind us, but
Oh,
no
video.
hologram.
Okay, okay,
No,
right, 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 right.
no.
That was very interestingly weird. I got to tell you, that was weird,
It
and I
was
don't mean
sort
that
of
in a bad way. I mean it was just like whoa, you know.
well, it had a little bit of a scrapbook kind of feel with the way we were sort of building the arc of their career, and
Right,
dad,
right.
really trying to. I think ultimately, I believe his intention was to just continue to honor the two of them as much as he could for as long as he could. I think it was a heavy burden to carry, because no matter how great he sings those songs, and we help him sing those songs,
Right. Yeah.
whether it's the crowd or the guys on
Yeah.
stage and girls up there.
Boy, that was
Um,
some audience. They knew every single word to every single song. That was not
yeah,
that was heavy being there. I'd never seen your dad play, and I was really blown away.
yeah. That was
It
an
was intense.
incredible night. I'll never
It was
forget.
intense. Yeah.
I'll
Hollywood
never
Bowl.
forget.
We're just talking about their show at the Hollywood Bowl here a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that was
Wow.
beautiful.
So okay, so why does Eric Clapton get involved in this thing and tell you to move to Miami? What's it to Clapton?
Well, Clapton was down here working with Tom Dowd,
Right.
the famed
The
record
legendary
producer,
producer Tom Dowd.
who was one of the most incredible people you could
Another
have ever
great
run into.
documentary on Tom Dowd.
Oh, amazing.
Right.
Amazing. His daughter Dana did that, and she's like a sister to me, But um, Tom Eric was working down in at Criteria Studios here in North Miami Beach, which,
Right.
all the Bee Gees, a lot of Bee Gees records, several Eric Clapton records,
That's right. Yeah.
most of Lynyrd Skynyrd's records,
Right.
and many of the Allman Brothers, Ted
That's right.
Nugent.
Well,
It was
Tom
a great.
Dowd produced the Allman Brothers,
Yes, he did. Yeah,
most famously. Yeah.
yeah. So I guess at that time, taxes were really high in the UK, and I think my dad and uncles were kind of chilling in Isle of Man at that time, because that's kind of where the Brits who could escape were trying to escape a
Oh, you
little
could go.
bit.
You could go there a little bit
It
to
it was kind of a tax haven in a way.
before they went to Ireland, I presume. Like Ireland may have been the next step, or France maybe.
No, no,
The Beatles went to France.
we did go to France to make a record, but it was I don't think they finished there. They went to the Honky Chateau where Elton John had recorded, and it was kind of tore up by the time they got there. So they, I believe, Dad was talking on the phone with Eric, and Eric was like, "You got to come to Miami, man. It's paradise. This is amazing." Like he's like, "I got this great house on
Well,
the beach.
I
There's a
hate to
killer
tell
studio."
you, the Jewish people thought so too a couple of years before,
No doubt.
on Collins Avenue. So
Indeed.
I love Miami. I've been there. I was recently even seeing you there a while back.
Indeed. And little known fact, if I'm not mistaken, they recently knocked it down, but the Beatles played their first ever American show at the
Mm.
Deauville Hotel on Miami Beach, Collins Avenue.
Let me tell you something. I'm really sad because I stayed at the Deauville with my mother for a couple of winters. We used to go to the Deauville to stay there.
Uh-huh.
That's a dark day, my friends. I didn't know that. That's really
There
dark.
you go.
Okay,
There
so
you go.
let's move on to. I wanted to talk to you about Saturday Night Fever with John Badham and the movie itself,
Yes.
which has the soundtrack that launches your dad and family into the stratosphere. Because the soundtrack album sells 40 million copies, probably more by now. 5 Grammys. Here's a poster for the movie itself with Travolta, who I did not realize was dancing to Stevie Wonder music because your dad's music had not been laid in until post.
That's correct.
Is that correct? I mean, he was not dancing to Staying Alive.
Yep.
He was dancing to like Boz Scaggs and Stevie Wonder and stuff, according to him.
Yeah. I don't know the exact songs that they used to be completely honest. But I do know that those songs that ended up on Saturday Night Fever, I believe were songs they were writing in France, and they were just writing their next record, and they were about to get dropped from Atlantic, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. That is true.
And
well, this was not the beginning of disco. This was near the end of disco.
Correct.
It kind of revives disco for a couple of years, and that's the end of it.
Well, it sort of redefined it, and then what happens is when it gets done, it's sort of like when any genre or sort of culturally impactful thing happens in music like that, it defines the generation, but it kind of gets stuck there.
Yeah.
It's like no matter what, the Grateful Dead is the Grateful Dead.
Right.
And people want to hear the Grateful Dead and what they in their mind think of as the Dead, which is, whatever era they identify with.
Well, I had a project with John Badham, a baseball movie, and he was telling me the story of he was the replacement director on Saturday Night Fever. He didn't know what was going on. It was an article in New York Magazine that led to the script of Saturday Night Fever based on a neighborhood in near where I grew up, which is called Bay Ridge, which is a mostly Italian neighborhood. I didn't grow up in Bay Ridge. I grew up in Coney Island, which was Jewish, and Sheepshead Bay also. But in between there is Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, and Bensonhurst, which is much more Italian, which is where the story was set. And it was a nonfiction article in New York Magazine, if I remember correctly. And Badham was not the original director. He told me he came on very late in the process and didn't know what the hell this was all about, but he was a serviceable professional director who knew how to direct a movie. So he wasn't into it culturally, but he was able to physically pull off the movie. And then I don't know who came up with the post-production sound sales of this thing, or what label, or who introduced your dad's music to the production people. But
well, Stigwood was the producer of the film.
Oh, Stigwood, right? From the RSO, yeah.
Yeah, so I think he saw this as a sort of happy accident. It's like he could save his movie and save the career of the Bee Gees, possibly.
Oh, double dipping
with this opportunity here. And I think, he was like, look, you guys got to try to put some music on this thing. What do you have? And I think they sent what they sent, and, everybody started jumping up and down, and before you knew it, it was laid in and it worked. And, we're looking at, culture shifting, seismic madness.
Oh, dude, just absolute madness. I don't know. People may not be old enough to have existed through it, but holy crap. It was a cultural explosion for a number of years, leading to some artistic thing that may not have worked, where your dad hooks up with Peter Frampton and they do Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Remember that in 1978.
Yes.
Maybe you know.
I was there.
Maybe you could tell us whose idea this was.
You know,
because
all
this was not the greatest idea in the world.
hey, listen, Stigwood is if anything, he's consistent and he can turn these bizarre, campy ideas into things that somehow
Yeah.
people latched onto at that time. I mean, he did it with Grease as well. And,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
for all intents and purposes, I think when he told my dad about Grease, um, you know, I think my dad didn't really know what to think other than, you know, he goes, oh, it's about, you know, 1950s, you know, greases and their cars and whatnot. And it's like doo-wop, you know, and my dad's like doo-wop. And he goes, yeah, he goes, it's Frankie Valli's going to sing the lead track, write me a song. And
Mm.
my dad's like, what do I write? I don't understand what I'm supposed to write it about. And Robert apparently said something like, you know, just like Grease, da, 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 Grease, da, 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 Grease, da, da, da. And so my dad, I was sitting on the bed, on the edge of his bed, and he grabs his guitar and he's like, Grease is the word, is the word. And that was it. And he's like, yeah, all right, I think I got it. And he just finished the song up that day and recorded the demo. And, you know, next thing you know, he's got a song in another movie, you know.
Well, the money must have been pouring in. Where were you guys moving to? From one mansion to the next at that point?
Well, you know, it is funny because in the 70s, prior to the success of Saturday Night Fever, I would have classified us as kind of lower middle class. Like we weren't really, you know, there was nothing that gave me the feeling that there was unlimited anything. You know, it was like there was like one station wagon, and you know, my grandparents lived with us. It was great. And then Saturday Night Fever came out, and it was like, you guys got to buy houses and quick.
And quick, yeah, yeah.
You know,
Where were you going to school? Like, what was your life like at that time, before and soon after this? Like, let's say before, were you in public school? I mean, what was the deal?
I went to like a Montessori school here in Miami Beach, and
Right.
you know, when I got there, I was like this little Oliver Twist British kid, you know, like, you know, oh, daddy's picking me up from school today,
Oh,
kind of.
weird, weird.
Yeah, when I first came to America, I was a little British kid, and all the kids that I went to school with, the boys, were all these little Jewish kids from New York that had
Wait a
moved
minute.
down. Yep, and
Yeah,
they bullied the shit out of me
I'm
for my
sorry about. I
accent.
haven't apologized for the entire B'nai B'rith busting your balls.
No, no, it's all great. These are
I'm
my
so,
buddies
really
forever.
sorry.
No, but you know, they were, you know, they would make fun of my accent. So over time I became American whether I liked it or not. And I even tried to move back to the UK
Well, you have
in
a
my early
connection to
20s.
the. You have a connection to the UK. For even it goes off and on, because I remember when your father. I think that's when your father got knighted by the Queen.
Yes, yes.
I mean, here's a photo. I mean, maybe you could tell us what's going on here in this photo. That's the Queen
Um
of England, by the way. I don't
that
know
is
who
the
the
queen, mom.
mom.
She yeah, she is well, she was quite funny according to my dad. I think that might have been like a Prince's Trust sort of charity event or something. Looks
Mhm.
like the 1980s, judging by Robin's mullet.
That's a mullet. Yeah, that's a mullet and a
Yeah,
half. That's more than a
yeah,
mullet, my friend.
yeah.
That's a
And my
double
dad's
mullet. Wow.
yeah. That was I remember around that time. Morris used to wear a hat, and can't wear a hat when you go say hello to the Queen. You know,
Obviously,
apparently.
for reasons that nobody knows. But do
Yeah,
you have to?
but
Did they have to like learn some etiquette to meet the Queen and do that? Like,
well, I think before you meet a
well, they
member of the
must
royal
know.
family,
They
they
must
give
know.
you a kind of a little bit of a rundown. It's like when you meet the president, you know, there's a
Right,
little bit
right.
of a, well, you know, you're going to walk in, you're going to take a right, and then you're going to shake, you know, you're going to wait your turn, shake your hand, only your right hand, you
So
know.
who's being knighted here? All three of them, or
No, actually, my father was knighted. The other
right?
two were
Yeah.
they were made commanders of the British Empire years ago, I think in the 90s or
Okay.
early 2000s, and then dad was knighted probably about
Was he
I don't know.
knighted with Uncle Richard? Let's see if we have a picture. I think it was a double knighting. Um,
I think Richard picked his up at a different time,
okay. All right.
if I'm not mistaken. But I think they were the same, or maybe it was Richard and then Dad the next year, because I don't think they give multiple musicians the same year. I can't remember exactly, but
Um,
yeah,
okay.
she's
So
apparently very funny.
who? Oh, the
The
Queen.
Queen,
Oh, yeah.
yes,
Really?
yeah. My dad found her to be dry and funny.
Right. Okay.
You
So
know,
they're I wanted to ask you something about your relationship, not yours, but yours too. I mean, the relationship between your dad and the Bee Gees and the Beatles. Like, what was that about? I mean, I know they covered some Beatles songs off and on,
Yeah.
but I wondered how the Beatles always perceived them. Of course, this is a likeness of the Beatles shown
Yes.
here.
Hmm.
When Ringo was knighted, you know Ringo, and I know Ringo. I mean, what was his take on your dad's musical career?
I don't really know, but I know that Ringo and my uncle Morris were really good friends
Right,
back
right.
in the day, and they
Yeah.
they at one time I think even might have lived next door to each other. And
By the way, we have to call him Richard or he'll kill us. If you ever said Ringo
yes,
to him, he'll
I know.
flip.
I'm so
No,
sorry.
no, it's Richard
Oh,
Starkey, and he just said Ringo's a character in the Beatles.
yeah, no, it's
The
true.
great line. He lectured me
Yes,
about it too.
yes, indeed, as he
Okay,
should.
so
Um,
him and your uncle were close.
yeah, and I think I think the Beatles back then. I can't say because I wasn't there, but as
Yeah,
I've heard it secondhand, they were sort of untouchable, and they were one of the first really untouchable groups in the eyes of everybody, including the Bee Gees. I mean, they worshipped the Beatles,
that's what
and
I thought. Yeah,
and I
yeah,
think
yeah.
at a certain time initially, I don't think Epstein wanted to take them on because they were so similar
Yeah.
because of the harmonies.
The
Um,
harmonies. That's the first thing I think of is both
yeah,
groups having those incredible, impeccable harmonies.
but the Beatles were a band for how long? 9 years.
It
I
was
mean,
pretty quick. It wasn't
so
that long.
it
Bee
was.
Gees for 29 years.
Yeah, no, Bee Gees were 50 years, I think,
Yeah, I know.
before.
I mean, literally, yeah.
Yeah, and I
Like,
mean that's not it's not a competition or anything,
no,
but
no,
I
no, no,
just think
no. But I mean, there's reasons for longevity too.
what
Creative
and
longevity. You have to have
I think
something to say, Stephen.
I think a big part of it for the three of them, if I might at least just imagine this for a second, um, I think a big part of it for them was that it was really about as much as everybody loves their voices and their harmonies, and that was definitely their focus. Um, I think they were always focused on trying to write the best songs that they could write, the best pop music that they could possibly write, and they would hold themselves to the standards of the Beatles and the Hollies
Right,
and these other
right.
bands of that, that really the Beach Boys, my God, and I mean,
Well, speaking of that, in 1980, your dad hooks up with a Brooklyn icon, the Queen of Brooklyn, Barbara Streisand,
indeed,
worshipped
yes,
by every Brooklyn woman ever walked the earth.
without a doubt, and well
Was that his
deserved.
first compilation with an outside artist, Stephen?
Um, I
I mean,
think
like
it was the
a
first.
meg.
It was his first time producing another artist,
Okay,
especially somebody of that level. I mean, there was a lot on the line.
right.
You
People
know,
don't understand how big Barbara Streisand was in the 60s and 70s, and
I mean,
I can't even explain the size of her influence on pop music.
no, her. I mean,
And
her
then
voice
becoming a
is
director,
iconic.
she became an actress, a director. I mean, I
Yeah,
know she may be a CUNT to a lot of people today, but in the peak of her career, I mean, she was Elvis at that time in terms
without
of
a doubt.
cultural influence and the things that she got herself involved in.
Oh, and
But
when the first A Star Is Born came
yeah,
out,
oh yeah,
I
Yentl.
mean,
I mean,
she was
yeah, it was insane.
tremendous.
It was insane. I mean, people thought, how is she doing this? And she did do it. I mean, whatever you think of her now, I mean, the record speaks for itself. But I'm going to mention a name to you: Steve Dahl's Disco Demolition Night, 1979 December, BG Free Weekend. This begins the
Oh,
crazy death of disco cult move in the United States, where they're burning your dad's records and having things at baseball games where they're flinging disco albums into the dark, and it just gets crazy. This blowback against disco is what I'm referring to, Stephen.
oh yeah, no, it was incredibly. I think honestly, I think my dad took it very personally. I don't. I think
I heard that he did. Yeah,
I think he was brokenhearted that it somehow um it was that easy to hate a guy that or a band that were just trying to write songs and you know write love songs for people to fall in love to, write dance songs for people to dance to so that they can fall in love. You know, I think that but at the same time, Mark, we're dealing with, you know, when you look at culturally, the way I see it, it's like, you know, the Beatles were the band of the 60s, you
Yeah.
know, and for better or for worse, in pop music, the Bee Gees were the band of the 70s, you know, and to be able to live
Oh,
that,
there it is, the Disco Demolition Nights.
yeah, I mean,
There's a photo of
look,
you.
for and to carry it even further, the 80s belonged to Michael Jackson and Prince.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And the fact of the matter is whether you're Michael Jackson or you're Prince or you're the Bee Gees or you're the Beatles, your life is going to be bizarre. And,
Right, right,
and people are going to want you to be something that you might not even be able to be anymore.
right. Well, the 80s were a
Because
freaky time, but you're right. It is the decade of Michael Jackson, and somehow your dad interfaces with Michael Jackson. How did that happen creatively? I mean, were they just friends, or I never understood how these two people met up.
they were, well, they were both, you know, mutual admirers of each other.
Yeah.
And I think they met maybe like a Grammy party or something.
Well, did he
And
live in Miami a lot, Michael? I mean, was
no,
that
Mike,
it?
no, Michael lived all over you know, kind of the Valley, you know,
Right.
Encino for a while.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And when I when we first met Michael, I was probably about 12 years old.
Okay.
And I don't know exactly how my dad and him met, but the Jacksons were on the Victory tour,
Right,
which
right.
was the tour that basically Michael did. Thriller was the biggest star on the planet, decided to take his brothers out and do another Jacksons thing to kind of, you know, bolster the name back up. And they played at the Orange Bowl, and it was right around Halloween.
Wow. Wow.
And I remember it was Halloween night, and I went to the front door because my dad was like, "Oh, there's somebody at the front door. Can you go let him in?" And I was
No,
like,
no, come
"Sure."
on. Okay,
I'm
so
not kidding you.
the
I'm not
doorbell
kidding.
rings and your dad says, "You want to get that, mate?" And
Yeah.
you're 12 years old and you open the door, and then what happens?
And then there's a guy standing there with like you know, the, the admiral's jacket on and
Oh,
with
he's
all the
dressed like
stuff.
the admiral.
He's dressed like Michael Jackson in 19 whatever 86 was it, or 85,
80,
something like that.
85, 86. That's fascinating.
And he's like,
Where are you living now? Is this in Miami
we were living
Beach?
at Miami Beach at the time. It's like the house we're in right now,
Right.
actually.
Okay, that's what I
And
thought. That's why I was wondering. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
and Michael says,
Can I come in? Can I come in, Steve?
no, he was just like trick or treat, you know. And
Oh,
I'm like,
oh
and
no.
I'm like, oh, hold on a second. And I went to like tell my dad, like, you know, I got to get some candy or whatever. There's trick or treaters. And I came back out or whatever. He walks in, and I was just kind of like, what's going on? Why is this Michael Jackson impersonator walking into the house? And then he kind of like did like a boo or something.
Boo.
And then my dad was like, you know, it's really him. It's really him. And I'm like,
Wait, so you thought this was a kid trick-or-treating dressed as Michael Jackson?
what are you gonna think?
No,
I
I
mean,
would think the same
as
thing.
much as people might think like, oh, it's Barry Gibb's son. I bet he, you know, everybody
No,
just
you're
stops
12
by the
years
house.
old. You're 12.
I was 12 years old, and I was like in genuine shock, you know, because if you were a 12-year-old boy at that time, Michael Jackson was the coolest guy in the world.
Right, right.
And he was in my house, you know, and you know, we were friends until, you know, just I the last time I spoke to him was just a couple years before he passed. But
Wow.
you
Wow.
know,
So
I
was he coming to see your dad or to sleep over, or was he, what was
he was
his
coming over to hang out with my dad, and they
to
were
hang,
gonna,
right? To
yeah,
hang.
just hang out, write some songs. They wrote quite a bit together
They
over the
did, yeah.
years,
Yeah.
and they were very, very close friends. You know, I mean, at a certain point, things heated up around him, and you know, we were just like, we don't know how to help,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, yeah.
we're gonna just back away.
Will Bob T try to help?
But for the record,
Yeah.
Michael Jackson and me are good, man.
Right.
That
So
guy,
did he and we discussed this once before, did he babysit for you on occasion when your parents were out, or did he stay
yeah.
over with you? And he
I've
told me
stayed
it was
over to I'd stayed over to his house a few times. Me,
right.
Sean Lennon, a bunch of other kids.
Sean was there also, right?
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
just hang out and, you know, have pie fights, egg fights, go to Magic Mountain.
You went to
and go
Magic
on all the
Mountain. That's
rides.
great. That's
Yeah,
great.
it was great.
So
I've
it
never
was
had more
fun. It
fun in
was
my
fun.
life.
It was fun for you as having Michael Jackson as a babysitter.
I mean, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I mean, how did you look at him that? I mean, you're like 12. There's Sean Lennon. You've got some other kids. Michael Jackson, I guess, is supposed to be the adult of the group, right? Or
Yeah, and
is
he
he
was
just
just
acting like he's 12 years old, Steve? Or
yeah, he's like the Pied Piper. Come on,
right,
we're gonna
right.
go do this. Hey, let's go
Come
do
on, let's
this.
like make a pizza. Let's
Yeah,
everybody make a
and
pizza.
I mean, he would get like those bang snaps. Remember those?
Yeah,
Pop, pop, pop.
yeah.
He would get boxes of them and just be like,
Wow,
stuff your pockets full of them. And we go to the
wow.
mall. We drive around the valley in LA and just throw them at people at the bus stop. And
Oh my God.
Michael would drive the car with us in the back, just
Wait,
doing
wait,
it.
wait. You're
I
all these kids are in the back.
swear
No, Steve, come on. You didn't tell me
to
this.
God, dude.
No, Steve, come on.
I
You're
swear-
driving in the valley with Michael Jackson at the wheel, throwing little miniature hand grenades out the
He
window.
would he would put his head out of the sunroof and drive like this with his
No,
legs.
get out of here.
I'm like,
No. It's
yeah,
me, Michael Jackson. I'm driving and the sunroof is open.
he was the
Oh
best,
my
man. What do you want?
God.
He was the best. To me, he was the best.
And were there other celebrity kids in there? Or it was just you and
Not really. I mean, I think I hung out with a couple of his nephews,
yeah,
Tito's kids, a couple
Yeah.
times, and I met Emmanuel Lewis once or whatever, and
right.
I was like all confused because I'm like I thought he was a kid, but he's not. It was like very
Who, the dwarf kid?
Webster. You remember the
Oh,
show
Webster. Yeah.
Webster?
Well,
Yeah,
was
yeah.
he a dwarf?
Well, he was. He was. Yeah, he was
Yeah,
very
he was.
small. He
You
was very
remember
small.
Mini Me? You remember when Mini
Of
Me?
course.
Oh,
Of
dude, okay.
course.
Well, Mini Me
Yeah.
was not a dwarf. He got upset if you called him a dwarf because he was smaller than a dwarf.
Yeah, no, he
Right.
was.
Mini Me was the
Poor
smallest
guy.
person. Yeah. What a sad story.
What a yeah.
Steve and I
very
knew
much.
Mini Me. But okay, so Webster is there, but he's like a grown child adult thing. You're not really sure what Webster was.
Yeah, but Bubbles was there. So I saw somebody in the chat.
Okay,
said
let
something.
me
What about
ask you
Bubbles?
something. What was Bubbles up to? And was that the real Bubbles, or were there multiple Bubbles? And also, what about? Remember, we were talking a number of years ago about the Michael Jackson impersonators, or doubles rather, who worked for him. Remember, weren't we talking about like one of the impersonators or doubles
Well,
showing up at events for him, Steve?
Well, look. Okay, here's what I don't want to be giving away too many trade secrets, but I'm sure
I mean, yeah.
like when you look at like the when Michael would play like a stadium show, right?
Right.
Well, Michael was a huge fan of magic
Yeah.
and magicians, and Siegfried and Roy were his friends, and like
And the lion, he loved the lion.
he loved the animals. He
Yeah.
just like he was a kid, man, and so I believe when he would do his shows, he would do like in a song, like the lights would go black on the stage. He'd be singing on stage, lights go out, boom, spotlight on the other side of the stadium, and then he's on some platform dancing and doing stuff, but maybe not singing.
Right.
And so that'd be a body double dancing over there.
Oh, so
Perhaps.
it was his version of magic.
Yeah, he was taken from
From Siegfried and
this is
Roy.
the show business. This
Right.
is entertainment. It's like, how do you give the people the most wow factor?
Wow.
And so I believe that was one of the techniques utilized, and
Yeah.
what I gather from what I've witnessed, I think that there was probably some decoy Michaels, like you have
Yeah.
them go out the front door, so the paparazzi goes, oh, because it's easier to make somebody look like Michael Jackson than
Yeah.
maybe any other celebrity. You put on the right outfit and the hair, and if there's enough accoutrement, you might be able to get away with even
Quickly,
looking like
by
Michael,
moving quickly.
even if it just looked like him him trying to disguise himself.
Right. Because then they might think that's the double. But wasn't the doubles being used also for events like opening record stores and stuff?
See, I don't know to the extent that they
Yeah,
were
yeah.
utilized,
Yeah.
but
But did the
but
doubles ever babysit for you?
no, that I
Okay,
don't think. No,
Okay.
but I do believe that he may have sent a double to work at the studio one day, and I don't think that went well. But
No, wait, to actually perform, or
Yeah, maybe. Like, it just seemed like, I don't know, is that the same guy?
Oh, you don't know at
But
that point.
I mean, and you know what, man? Artists are eccentric, and Michael was definitely maybe one of the more eccentric,
Well,
but he was, but he,
don't sell Bob Dylan short because he's got a
I,
lot of. Don't sell Bob
I
short
don't
because a
know.
lot
I
of
don't
these
know
guys.
Bob. I don't know
I
Bob
know,
at
no,
all.
no. His is that his monkey there, or is that a toy?
That
That's his real monkey, isn't it? Isn't that Bubbles?
I don't know. It's hard to tell
It's
from
hard to
that
tell if
picture.
that's
But
real. Yeah.
that shirt, he was wearing it. He used to wear that shirt all the time. I remember that one very well.
Wow. Did you
Yeah,
ever
yeah.
try on any of his stuff, or?
I don't think so, man. I mean,
Okay. All right.
what we did do. I mean, he would grab guitars and be like, "Here, put these on, and let's
Hmm.
pretend we're in a band." And then he
Wow.
would like put on Van Halen songs, and then we would dance around and pretend like we were playing music. It was just bizarre. It was, it was fun. It was really fun, man.
Right, right. But you didn't go up to his amusement park house or anything, did you? Or
I never went there actually.
right. Oh, you
You know,
probably bit the bullet on that one. That's for sure, because of that secret little door that Bob told us about in his room. There was
yeah.
a tiny little room off of the room. Uh,
Well, who knows, man? Who
who
knows?
knows? Now
You
we'll
know what?
never know.
You know what we're never gonna know?
What?
What happened with Diddy? What happened? What?
Well, it's not over, so yeah, we'll find
Yeah.
out in a number of weeks or months. But getting back
Yeah.
to
Sorry.
Michael, getting back to Michael, getting back to Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. What happened there? It was just a movie that just bombed, I guess,
Probably
1978.
just too much cocaine, man. I mean, when you really, because I mean, it's a bizarre concept to be like, let's make a musical. Like the Beatles hadn't really finished being the Beatles all that long ago.
Right, right.
You know what I mean? It was kind of like, oh well, let's make a Beatles tribute.
Dude, I saw
With
at
all
the
these,
at
it was
the
like the Cannonball Run. It was like Cannonball Run, like in the way they were
yeah.
trying to shoehorn everything together. I mean, listen, Earth, Wind, and Fire was amazing. The
Yeah.
version they did of "Got to Get You Into My Life" is still iconic. I mean, one of the greatest recordings ever.
I saw
And
the live version at the Beacon Theater of Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band with
oh,
jazz guys, if I remember. And there was I forget this guy's name, famous black jazz bass player, who was the band leader of the show.
really,
Maybe I got to look this up after the show, but I remember seeing it live. Here's a cover of the
well, that
Sergeant
would have been
Pepper.
the Beatles. That's the Beatles, Sergeant Pepper.
Yeah,
There,
this
so
is because there's Lenny Bruce over there near the side of the drum, and there's Marlon Brando, and there's the Beatles looking at themselves, and
there's
uh,
Crowley over there somewhere.
there's W.C. Fields and Tony Curtis up on the top. Oddly enough, that's a weird choice. There's
Yeah,
some weird faces in there.
that Edgar Allan Poe in there somewhere.
Yeah, I think Gene Autry, and dude, it's
Yeah, yeah,
so crazy.
it's a great
This
little
was at
psychedelic collection.
yeah, wow. There's Bob Dylan, of course, next to Laurel of Laurel and Hardy,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Marilyn Monroe in there. There was some. Oh yeah, that's kind of freaky. That's kind of
yeah.
freaky. But
Oh,
anyway, so that doesn't really work out. But then the death of disco actually does happen, and your father begins to move into doing these things like with Barbra Streisand and other artists. Like what happens? I guess what is he doing during this post-disco era is really what my question is.
well, I think in a lot of ways, trying to be a dad.
Yeah.
I think that at that time,
Oh, and tell me about your family. You got the brother. I mean, what's going on at home now that he's a dad? You've got the
well,
mother, your mother and him. You got yourself, the brother. Who else is in that thing?
I got my brother Ash, who's
Yeah.
like
Ash.
younger than me, and then Travis was like 85.
Hmm.
Ash was born in like 78, 79, I think, or
Hmm.
maybe 77. I don't remember, but I'm 73, and then yeah, Travis was born
So there's
mid
three.
mid
Who's
80s.
in this photo? Tell me these people here.
Okay, well that's my dad on the
Right.
left. That's my sister-in-law Therese. That's my mother. That's my brother Ash behind her.
Hmm.
That's his son in front of my sister right there.
Right.
And then that's me over there on the left with a way too long beard.
No, that looks very, very Lincoln-esque. I think you're right.
Gas.
No, this was in your Civil War period. I remember this period when you were.
Yeah.
Remember when you were a reenactor? I love that period of time when you were working as a Southern rebel in the reenactment of the South.
Still moonlighting occasionally, mostly in the winter.
Right, but it's a good side job. You know, I was just finishing Larry Charles's new book on comedy, and he's
Oh,
talking
I want
about
to check that out.
Dude, the book is unbelievable. So he's talking about making Borat, and he's talking about Civil War reenactors, and he stumbles upon they have plantation reenactors where they have the mansion and they're dressed like the antebellum South, and they have actual slaves picking cotton.
Oh,
And they no, dude. And this was you paid to go experience this, like the
Wow.
reenactors of the Civil War. So Borat or Sacha Baron Cohen says, let's as a bit, let's free the slaves, right? And he's going, oh, this is going to get us in trouble. So he's dealing with the owner of the mansion, and he rides up and begins to free the slaves. But while they're waiting for Borat to show up, he starts talking to the slaves, Larry Charles, and he says, can you make a living doing this? He says, what? He says, being a slave. He goes, I can't. I have to have another job. He goes, well, what else do you do? He goes, I work at McDonald's. He says, so you're a slave part-time and you work at McDonald's to make ends meet? He goes, yeah, I need the money from being a slave. They were being paid to be slaves. In the most surreal conversation,
wow.
he's talking to them about trying to make ends meet as a slave and working at McDonald's. And then Borat shows up to liberate them. And then the police and everything else goes crazy as they try to free the slaves. The police show up, and then the chief of police shows up, who's black, and Larry gets off the hook because it's a black chief of police. But
see, there is a God.
There is a God of comedy, that's for sure.
No
that's
doubt.
for sure. But you had your own run-in with the Klan, from what I understand. I think that you, is it possible that you, this is why I was going here with this thing, when they were filming Bad Boys 2 or just Michael 2, it was still Michael Bay. It was Michael Bay.
Yeah.
Tell me, is any one of these people in a Klan's robe you?
Yeah, you see the guy on the far left with the beige hat on?
Yeah.
That's me.
Oh, come on.
I was Klansman number 1, and I had lines which I will not repeat.
Right.
That got left on the cutting room floor, as I understand it, and thank God, because they would have not aged well at all.
And that's, of course, Martin Lawrence, who famously set himself on fire on Ventura Boulevard a number of years ago, running down the street.
Right.
You forgot about that, didn't you? While
That's
smoking crack, he accidentally set himself on fire on a movie set that my friends were producing, and he ran down Ventura Boulevard in a ball of flame. But I guess he made it back for Bad Boys 2. I guess the money must have run out.
Yeah. They've done a Bad Boys 3 now, but
I did not know that.
Yes, they have. I was not asked to rejoin the cast on this one.
Well, in Bad Boys 4, they're wondering if you could play a Nazi and come back as a member of the SS because of your incredible role as a Klansman in Bad Boys 2.
No. I think my acting days are behind me, bud.
Right. But these music videos are kind of like acting. They look very artistic, the new ones.
Well, I mean, I think the thing is like, for somebody that, for me, like I'm a musician. I'm not necessarily a visual artist or an actor per se, but I do think that I've always been a lover of the art form. I love animation, and we actually did a video for the first song we released. It's a song called Atomic Haze. And the video for that, there's no footage of the band, and
that's a great video. I've seen that.
Yeah,
fantastic.
I really am proud of what Brian and us accomplished with that, and I think it's it's timely, if anything. I'll say that.
I just wanted to let me see if I could show some of these photos of you with Crowbar. I don't know what this is. If there's some photos of you, I don't know what band you're in.
Oh, that's when I was fat. That's when I was fat.
You don't look so fat in these photos. I don't know.
Oh, good.
But, no, I wouldn't do that to you. There's no way I would ever do it. I come from a very fat family, bro. I would never do that. My mother had she left Ring Around the Tub. What is this from here?
Oh, that's when I was playing with Jamie Josta, Hatebreed, Kingdom of Sorrow, Josta, and I believe my buddy Randy Blythe from Lamb of God took that picture.
Wow. Wow. Was that in Florida or?
No, I think that was. I want to say it was like Montreal or something. I could be
What?
wrong. Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember, man. They all. I
All
can
right. What's
guesstimate.
this one from? Where is this festival or stage from? What is this?
Oh, that's Crowbar. That's the version of Crowbar after I was in the band.
Okay.
But that's fairly recently, and they're still my brothers. I love those dudes. They're just the best.
Wait,
Kurt
what
Winstein is the I spoke to him earlier today, man. Maybe one of the funniest, naturally funniest human beings that has ever existed. You'd love him.
I love him already. What when you say what is it? What kind of music is this exactly? Metal
I
sludge,
well,
metal
they call
punk?
it
What do they
sludge
call
metal,
it?
but
I've heard sludge metal. I mean,
it's slow and heavy.
right.
Is just when people say, "What does Crowbar sound like?" It's like it's usually pretty slow and pretty heavy. But it's it's heavy metal, man. We all love Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, Van Halen. It's just what happens when you twist it up into the mind of Kirk and
Let's see where is
myself.
this one from? Tell me about this photo here of you. I think this is you playing. Uh,
That is me. That was actually that was in Germany, I think, or that was on that tour. That was Kingdom of Sorrow. Yep.
okay. Kingdom of Sorrow was another band. Now there's I just want to show you this picture. There was one of I don't know, it was Nikki Six or someone or um I wanted to know more about 58, but maybe we're not going to know that much. Have you seen that, by the way, have you seen the Led Zeppelin documentary?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Dude, is that amazing or what?
It's so good. I
Dude,
mean,
that's so great. That's
I didn't
so
want to watch it for the longest time because
yeah.
I don't want to know how the sausage is made
No,
in certain
I
things in
know. I
life,
felt this.
you
I
know.
watched it on a
But
plane, and then I watched the other half on the plane going back. I didn't want to keep going.
I mean, one of my favorite bands of all time.
I figured I didn't. I'm sorry to bring that up, but it was
Oh
just a
no,
yeah,
never be sorry. I love Led Zeppelin. Deep.
dude. I mean, what a documentary! One of the best music docs I've seen in 20 years.
Yeah,
I've seen in
they
20
were the
years.
greatest. They were the greatest.
Wow. Now, what is Saigon Kick?
Saigon Kick is a band from South Florida that had some hits in like the late '80s, early '90s. They had a hit, "Love Is on the Way," which is a big track, and they're friends of mine, and I've been playing with them on and off as sort of a second guitar player slash sometimes bass player, just because they're buddies of mine, And I love Jason, Matt, Chris, Phil, all the guys that I play with in that band are great dudes.
And
And
they're still these bands are still bands, even though
yeah, yeah,
you're not in them.
we still do shows. I don't think we'll be doing any new music, but we got some shows coming up. Prague Fest in Atlanta later this
Prague
year.
Fest in Atlanta. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Well, there's a shot here. I wanted to. I don't know if this is from the time period you were. Let's see what this is here. Oh, what is this here?
That's when I first joined Saigon. Yep, correct.
Wow.
Yeah, that's probably going back a decade now, at least.
Wow.
Yeah.
What recently happened, I thought, was the Kennedy Center honors, which is, now it's a highly controversial thing, but apparently
Mm.
your dad was honored recently, right? Was this like 2022 or something? Or
It was almost 2 years ago, about a year and a half ago.
right, it was very recent. And who else
Yeah,
was on the bill? I mean, you were there. I know you gave a speech.
I
It
did.
seemed very emotional at the time. Your dad
It
was
was.
on. It was. I remember when it happened. Your dad was getting the honors, and
Well, Queen Latifah was there.
oh,
She's
Queen
amazing.
Latifah. Yeah, look at this. Yeah.
Yeah. There's there who else was there? God, Billy Crystal, who was
Oh, Billy
amazing.
Crystal. Wow.
Billy was
Wow.
amazing.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Dionne Warwick, of course,
Dionne
was there.
Warwick.
She was
Wow.
fantastic. And God, I'm trying to think of everybody
How
that was
did your
there.
dad take it? I mean, to be honored from another country and I mean, is he an American citizen now?
He is. He is.
He
No,
is. Okay, yeah, yeah.
we have been for many years.
I thought so. Yeah, I thought so.
Mhm.
So
And
I mean, what a rush for him to, I mean, to get the,
it was pretty surreal even by his standards,
By
you
his
know.
standards, right, right.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I wasn't born in America. I'm a American citizen, but
Yeah,
I came here from the UK with my dad, and when you come to a new country, you don't think you're going to meet the president someday, you
right,
know. You
right,
know what I mean? Like just stuff like that. It's like
right.
that's stuff that happens to those other people,
Hmm.
and I think that no matter who you are or what you've experienced at a certain point, whether it's the Queen or the President of the United States, or you know, Robert De Niro, whatever, impresses you at a certain point in your life,
Yeah.
you meet these people and you're like, whoa, how is this my life?
Well,
So
your dad has sold over 250 million records. I mean, it's a kind of a record about how many records he sold.
yeah, but he's painfully humble and shy and kind of doesn't seek the accolades. You know what I mean? He doesn't
Right.
really go for that.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, he's, especially since the, pandemic lockdowns, I think he's just been real, gotten more and more comfortable with the fact that he's probably not going to do it again.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Right.
It's okay. But it's definitely, yeah, it's tough when you've never done anything else. What do
Well,
you do
tell
with
me
your,
about his venturing into country. I mean, didn't he do a couple of didn't he do the thing with a
well,
country out?
he's always been a huge fan of country and bluegrass, especially
Right.
ever since he was a kid, because a lot of early, what was the rock and roll of the era was, rockabilly was, derived from
Right.
country music and bluegrass in a way. And that was the rock and roll of the day in a sense. But, um, the Bee Gees always wrote, I mean, To Love Somebody could have been a country song. How Can You Mend a Broken Heart was kind of a country song.
Right.
Like
Right.
they were huge fans of Orbison and the Everly Brothers and Johnny Cash and all the greats, Willie.
Speaking of the Everly Brothers, did he freeze up there for a second? Well, we could talk around it. There was a group called the Bunburys. I don't know if you remember that, Steve, or even if you can hear me any longer. The Bunburys. I don't know if Clapton did that as part of his own traveling Wilburys. I don't know what the Bunburys were. If you ever come back, I would love to ask you about that, but we don't know. So maybe at some point, we might have to go to the comments of the people involved in the show, unless I'm freezing up and nobody could see me. Let's see if we can find out what's going on here. I'll ask the chat. Am I frozen or Steve frozen? Let's see what they say. Okay, well, you could try to get back. Let's see, try again. I lost the signal, he said. That could happen. Oh, he's back. There he is. Okay, welcome back.
Sorry about that, my
No,
friend.
no. It happens all the time. I've been on a million shows where this has happened. Nobody cares anymore.
Okay, great.
I wanted to ask you about the Bunburys. What the hell was the Bunburys?
The Bunburys. Well, my dad was very, very well, his best friend was a guy by the name of David English, who was a British actor and comedian, very,
Right.
very, maybe one of the world's funniest people that never was known for that, but genuine funny guy and a avid cricketer. So he put his passion was putting together these charitable events for kids with all these famous cricket players in the UK.
Right.
And him and my dad were hanging out one day, and he's like, let's write a song, for the Bunburys, which was this fictional kind of club that this fictional cricket club that were these rabbits that played it's like a kid's book type thing.
Right.
And
So it's got
so
nothing to do with the Wilburys.
no, not at all. That was just something they
Okay.
did for fun. And then I think, Dad did a song for the Bunburys, and then I think him and Elton John wrote a song as well for the Bunburys, and he did another one with Eric Clapton. So they were all mates hanging out back then.
Okay, well, getting back to
And
the country, did he do
yeah,
something with Dolly Parton, or I forget what the
well,
country was, a
he wrote
compilation record, or
no, he wrote Islands in the Stream
okay,
for Kenny Rogers, and then They ended up getting Dolly Parton to sing that back in the day, and
Right.
I believe at one point that was one of the most played country songs of all time, if you can believe
Wow.
that.
Wow.
Um, and so Dad's been writing country music forever. It's just he was never
He's
quote
just from a
unquote
different. He's just from a
selling it.
different country.
Yeah, I mean, but look at Keith Urban. I mean, country music's a thing in Australia.
I know.
They
No,
got their own thing going on with it.
dude. He's a great guitar player. I don't. He doesn't sound like pure country, but
No, not anymore. But Keith's a great guy, and
yeah.
he's the real thing, man. Like when that guy sings, it's deadly. When he plays guitar,
No, I
it's
know.
deadly. It's like great, good God.
There was a movie with Jeff Bridges where Colin Farrell plays kind of a Keith Urban character, and Bridges is playing a Waylon Jennings type character.
Oh, I know them. I know. Is that yes, that's a great movie, actually.
Thank you. Thank you. The Colin Farrell character is someone who grows up with him, and Waylon or the Jeff Bridges character has taught him the ropes and now has surpassed him by being a giant arena country rock god,
Right,
kind of like
yeah.
a Keith Urban, and he's a complete alcoholic, Jeff Bridges, like a Waylon. Right. It's a great movie. It's a great, I forget the name of it. If anybody in the chat knows
something Heart, is it something Heart?
American Heart or something.
It's something like that.
Heart, yeah.
Hearts,
not Hearts on Fire, but
Crazy Heart, or
Crazy Hearts. Crazy Heart. Crazy Heart. Crazy Heart. Yeah. Fantastic movie. Absolutely fantastic movie.
Very good film.
So I really recommend How Can You Mend a Broken Heart, speaking of hearts, on HBO or Max, wherever you can find it now after the show.
I think it's Max.
It's Max. I don't know about the biopic with Kenneth Branagh. That may be something.
Well, no, at this point, as far as I know, we have you've seen probably stuff in the press. I think Ridley Scott is attached to the project now.
Yes, Ridley Scott, 111 years old, but still works, making Gladiator 2.
Well,
I don't know how he does it.
From what I understand, he still works harder than anybody too. So it's not,
that and the guy George, what's his name, who makes the Mad Max movies. Also is like 96 years old in Australia, making Mad Max Furioso, and he's like 100. These guys still working.
Yeah, crazy.
It is crazy. I mean, to be
Australians are built different, man. They just keep
they're
going.
definitely freaks. They're definitely
without
freaks.
a doubt. Without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
There's the record you were talking about was the Greenfields record that Dad did back in 2020, which was where he did some Bee Gees or songs, but recut them with his personal favorite country artist.
Did you tell me that your dad bought the Johnny Cash house and then burned it down by accident?
No, he didn't burn it down.
No, I'm saying the laborers burned it down by accident.
Unfortunately, it was an accidental. Well, here's the surreal thing, Mark, is that we had bought the house, and
where was this Johnny Cash house?
It's out there in Hendersonville in Tennessee.
Right.
And dad fell in love with this. Dad and mom fell in love with this house, and but it needed some love, as I understand it, and they spent, I think, about 2 years really, bringing it back to its glory and really making it a special place. And it was, God, it was a beautiful home, and I was really looking forward to that resting spot.
It was on a lake, Steve.
Yeah, it's on a lake in Hendersonville. Yeah, it's a beautiful area of Tennessee, and I believe that they were sealing the floors in the lower level, and somebody lit a match, and the rest is history, because the thing was, mostly a wood, kind of log cabinish kind of place.
Well, you see that house. I don't know if it's the real house.
The irony of it, irony was when it was on the news, because I was making a record in Los Angeles, I think, at that time, and my little brother Ash called me, and he's like, "Dude, put on CNN," and I was like, "Oh, geez," and he goes, "You got to see this." And as I put it on CNN, it was there was a helicopter flying over, and it was like, and it was an outline of a ring of fire around the house.
Oh my God!
And
wow, that's surreal.
Yeah, it was a bit surreal. And the truth is, man, is I think that land is Johnny and June's, and
nobody's getting
that's what it was. And then it's their families, I don't know them, but that's their spirits there. It must be.
Well, I think that house, or a house that looks like it, is depicted in the movie with Joaquin and Reese
Correct.
Witherspoon. It's not that house though, right?
I don't. I can't say to be sure,
Right, right.
but it's
But it's on the
definitely.
lake. It's kind of like the setup is the same. I doubt if they use the
I
same
should go
house.
back and watch it because I couldn't
Yeah,
tell
you
you.
could tell. I can't tell because I don't know what it looked like, but you could probably tell in a second if that's
Yeah,
the Johnny Cash house.
we had he had an amazing bell garden in his garden. He had this collection of bells,
Really?
and he was really into bells. Yeah, and bells. There's a lot of conspiracy theories about bells. You don't hear them anymore. You ever notice that?
Yeah, because he bought them all up, probably.
Maybe he
Yeah,
was. Yeah,
I just like when he called Bob his little buddy.
yeah, right.
Did you see the Dylan movie, by the way, the new one?
I actually haven't seen it yet.
Oh, it's not bad. It's definitely
I know
watchable.
I've heard great things
Yeah,
about it.
it's definitely watchable, bro.
You know what it is like I have a strange aversion to the whole genre. I'm not really
What, like
like.
rock biopics, you mean?
Yeah, it's like I'm not like for me. I love
What, you mean the
obviously.
Queen one wasn't good enough for you?
I thought the Queen biopic was incredible. It was
Okay,
amazing, and I went and I took my kids, and it was amazing to for them to learn about Queen
right.
in that way. It was a great experience for them. They love that music
It
now,
was supposed to be Sacha Baron Cohen.
and I would have loved to have seen that
And
too for my
that would
own
have been
crazy
interesting.
reasons. It
Right,
would have.
right, right.
But I think the thing is with a lot of these stories is like you have to kind of tell. You can't tell the whole story. It's like I
You
think
got
if
to take a
Sasha would have.
slice. That's what he does with Dylan. He takes a slice at the beginning, and that's it. It ends at Newport in '65. So he takes
Yeah,
it from 61 to 65.
yeah, and you kind of serve the era that
Yeah,
way more than the actual story. It's like, we'll see what happens, man. I hope it's the best possible movie that can be made if it gets
yeah,
made. I mean, I'm out of my depth there. I'm
yeah. I
not
mean,
a movie
look, you got
maker.
to worry about the new James Bond. You got other issues. You got to, as a Brit,
I
you got
mean,
all
well,
kinds of
yeah.
problems with James Bond. You can't be worried about your dad's
I'm
depiction.
Well, it's like, you know what I mean? People ask me about like what dad, it's like if somebody, if your dad's a plumber, it's like if somebody asks, "Hey, what's your dad doing over at 125th and 7th?" and you're like, "I don't know." I'm not there with him. How would I know?
Right.
But
But
um
you're saying he's basically enjoying retirement at this point and chilling out and enjoying
yeah,
it. Does he have? Well, he's got you
he's got
two
5
grandchildren. He's
kids.
got grandchildren from you.
He's got grandkids in yeah, he's got several.
All
There's
right.
probably, I mean, when we go, I think when the whole family goes out, which doesn't happen very often, but it's a good
You ever go to the
40.
Olive Garden as a family? Just all of you.
No, but
I'd like
that'd
to
be
see.
fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
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 BG's table of 7, please. Table of 7
I
BG's.
mean, listen, it was crazy when I was a kid, we go out and, you'd get dad for 5 minutes and he'd be like, I gotta go. I'm out,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's, okay, see you later, Pops. We'll enjoy your food.
Well, let's see if anybody in this chat has any questions for Steve while he's still here. You can ask him. Don't ask him when he's gone because I'm not going to be able to answer him. Here's one this is from a New York City guy that we know. I always enjoyed that dad plays guitar in the open D tuning.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that true, Steve?
That is correct. Yeah, yeah. He, I believe when he was very small and he wanted to learn how to play guitar. And I guess, back then, they'd hand you a ukulele and you plink, 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 and then whatever, nothing would come out really. And I think the way he tells it, there was some serviceman, some guy that just came back from, you know, uh, being at war or something. And he said that he learned how to play guitar this way when he was stationed in Hawaii or something. And it's an open D major chord, and it's a D A D F sharp A D. So it's it's basically you could take one finger, and if you press one finger, you can play every major chord up and down the neck. Um, and so for a little kid, it was very easy to learn that way, and
Oh,
just bar
he taught you to do
he
it too?
taught he well that's how my dad was taught, and then he just never learned how to play in standard tuning or any other tunings. He was just like, I like this tuning, my voice sounds good here, I'll stay here.
Now
And
you've written with him before. How does that process work? When you sit down with your dad, I mean, how freaky is that?
it's very daunting at first because it's
Thank you,
just
Dog Nose 2 super sticker. Love you.
you know, I think it was very daunting at first because, you know, by most people's definition, I mean, my father's one of the greatest songwriters of all
Yeah.
time.
No,
You know, and
he's Dylan level.
yeah, it's kind of like it's incredibly intimidating on the one hand if you actually think about it, but I just, you know, fortunately he's a lot more my dad than he is Barry Gibb to
Right.
me.
Right. Of course.
So, you
Of
know,
course.
it's more of just like, hey, if I can help you, dad, or if you want me to be around for anything, I'm happy to be whatever I can be to be of assistance, but he doesn't need my help.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but I think, you know what, after his brothers had passed away, I still think he had more songs to write. He wanted to continue to write. And I think he wanted to get closer to me and even my younger brother Ash a little bit as well. And I think that um, you know, that music is the language that dad and I speak together, you know, whether it's, chord, song structures or melodies or lyrics. And I think with dad, he's sort of what I would call like a melody, like a coin operated hit machine. Like you can play a musical.
Does he pull it out at Thanksgiving and start to
Pull it out at
start to,
Thanksgiving, Mark.
and start to play some of his songs? Or Mike Schaefer?
Yeah.
Thanks, bro. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, I think
Alan, love you.
thanks,
Go ahead,
Alan.
Alan.
I think the big thing was mostly like Christmas and New Year's was when we would get really festive, like a lot of families, and if there was a series of parties, through that time of year, then my dad and one or two of his friends would sing, or me and him, or him and his brothers. When I was growing up, that's every night after dinner they all sat and sang other people's songs. They would sing Beatles songs. They would sing
Right.
Roy Orbison, just the stuff that they loved,
Yeah, I was just
Um,
reading in a book about Orbison joining the Wilburys, and then how when he passed, they did a second album and he wasn't on it, and it didn't work because of his incredible voice.
I mean,
Remember that that voice was insane. Was it?
it's the greatest.
Wasn't there a young Roy Orbison kid running around Malibu for a while? Did you know?
Orby, yeah, I know him.
Remember Orby? Remember his
Yeah,
kid?
yeah, I
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
we're not super tight, but when we see each other, it's nothing but
Right,
love.
right,
He's a great dude.
right.
He's a great
Orby,
dude, and
yeah.
I knew his mom a little bit before she passed, sadly, and I did meet Roy when I was a kid, and Dad
What?
and him wrote, before the
He
Wilburys.
completely blind, or was it partially blind? What was it?
I think he just was partially, but pretty not good. Like maybe
Right,
like kind of like maybe like how Johnny and Edgar kind of
right.
have a
Well,
little.
Johnny got really blind, and
Johnny got
Pew
really.
Pew. Thank you so much from Norway. Thank you, one of our regulars. Thank you,
Oh, right
Pew
on.
Pew. Yeah.
Um,
Remember, Johnny, I think, went completely blind as an albino, right? Edgar wasn't.
yes.
Edgar wasn't completely blind. I remember
No.
looking. Yeah.
No, but I think when you have like that it's a I don't know exactly what his condition
Yeah.
was, but I think it was something similar as to like that albino kind of
Yeah.
sort of thing. But Roy was a very, very nice man, and my dad worshipped him, and they got to write a song or two together and record a little bit, before he passed. So, he had a lot of fun with Roy, and it was weird. Like, they were before the Wilburys, Roy and my dad and Larry Gatlin and God, somebody else were talking about
Larry
doing something
Gatlin.
very similar. And
Oh my
and
God.
then everybody got busy, and then Roy ended up getting getting with the Wilburys, and that was.
Let me tell you something. What happened to the
happen.
Gatlin brothers? Because when I lived in Woodstock, I had a phone number that was one digit off from Levon Helms, who lived up the road from me.
Really?
And Gatlin would call drunk to talk to Levon, and he would dial my number repeatedly. And then we started to have a relationship where he'd call me drunk, and talk to me instead of Levon Helm, who lived up the road.
Amazing.
And
Amazing.
there was Larry Gatlin from the Gatlin brothers.
Larry was a blast, man. We said, I mean, him and Dad were tight when I was a kid, and I'd go deep sea fishing with Larry all the time.
Oh,
man.
I didn't know that.
He's a wild one, man. He's, you know.
Hold on. He's got a question for you. Dog's nose too. Are there Gibb grandkids pursuing music? Well, yours is doing something with sculpture.
Well, my son is he's an artist. He's a sculptor, and I mean he does all kinds of mixed media artists. His name is Angus, and
Angus, that's right.
Yeah, and he was named after Angus Young from AC/DC. Who was, you know, one of my heroes. But my son, he plays a little bit and mucks about with it, but he hasn't really taken to it. And none of the grandkids. Although I think my brother Michael's daughter has a great singing voice.
Well, it might be slightly intimidating
young
to go through that, to take that road as opposed to other art forms. It might be a little much.
Well, I mean, look, Mark, I never wanted to be a singer for the obvious reasons. You know,
right. Your falsetto voice is quite startling. I mean,
no, I don't. I can't. I mean, if I really sit around and work on it for a few minutes, I might grab it for a second. But
right. Well, that might be in the DNA. Who knows?
But it's an ugly interpretation. It's an impersonation. You know, it's not the voice.
Right.
You know? Yeah. But
hold on. This little question is slightly random, but is there any more unreleased Andy Gibb tracks to come out? Your dad and his bros' music still get major play in my household, by the way. Thanks.
That's awesome. That's very awesome. Cool. No, as far as I know, whatever it is available has been released of Andy's work, and that is really that would be up. If there is anything else that I'm unaware of, that would be up to his daughter.
And, I see. She's in charge of that estate, or
as I understand it, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So she, that's really on her as to what she does with any of that. If there is any, I don't really know what's left now.
This is from Al Gonzalez. Thank you, Al. The one night only in Vegas show remains one of the best. Your thoughts on that show? I don't know the show. Maybe Steve.
Yeah, it was. That was a live. One of the. I would say probably the best live representation of the Bee Gees, I would say in the 90s. It's a really great show. It somehow gets a lot of airplay on like PBS, and it's just like always. It's one of those things that's always on. You know what I mean? And
what is it? What is it exactly?
It was like a 2.5 hour concert film.
Really? Okay, I haven't
just
seen
their entire show. Kind of when they were still, everybody was really healthy. Everybody was great. It was the 90s. I was about 20, I think.
Yeah.
Or something. I don't remember how I was, but I was about 20 years old, and I played guitar that night with them, and that was a big night for me because I'd only done a handful of shows at that point in my life that were big like that, and playing with them was always intimidating, but at the same time, it's my family, and it's
Well, when you played the Hollywood Bowl, when I saw you, you had played with your dad before. I saw you at the Bowl, so you seem pretty. Thank you, Helena, so much. Thank you, from Canada, I believe. You seem comfortable playing that night.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah.
Yeah.
A couple decades later,
right,
or about at least a decade or so. But yeah, I mean, that was a great show. That was that was Vegas at the MGM Grand, and I mean, I'm just really grateful I got to play with all three of them while they were still.
Wow.
I mean,
I got to see that footage.
I'm very blessed in that. Yeah, I was a youngin.
You were like 20 in that, or what?
Yeah, I must have been about that. Yeah.
Wow.
Still pretty fresh faced.
Wow, babyface Gibson, babyface Gibster.
I mean, hey.
Here's somebody named American Dream. It was the best music, the music of my life. A lot of people say that. A lot of people say thank you.
Well, we've been very blessed. It's been a lovely. All I can say is
what a ride, Steve. What a ride.
I've never been bored a day in my life. I mean, some days I remember things and I go, wow, that happened. That's kind of crazy. Or, I saw that and I was just lucky enough to see it. I was just there for whatever
Yeah.
reason, and I've been very blessed. There's been a lot of moments like that in my life, and it's never lost on me. I don't take it for granted for a single second.
Right.
I've had a really good seat to a pretty incredible show for my entire life. So
Yeah, I
it's
love the behind the scenes as we get towards the end here. I'll be down in Miami probably in November, October around there. Maybe we'll get together again
smart
and
man.
maybe we can rekindle some of this like we did the last time. Oh, we met in the Rumble studio.
We did.
Uh,
Yeah, that was a lot of
when
fun, man.
David was interviewing me and Eric. That's when you were there. That
Correct.
was. We're going to do that again, so maybe that'd be a good meetup place for us.
Oh, that'd be
Because it's
great.
close.
Yeah.
It's close to you, and I'm going to be up in West Palm, so I'll come down for that.
Yeah,
Pro-
and I'm
prob-
happy
I-
to come up and visit you too, man. I love going up there.
Yeah,
Out of Miami.
it's fun up there, and getting to Miami. Thank your Papa Stephen from the Cove Channel. Thank you so
I
much.
definitely will. I definitely will.
It's crazy to get into Miami. Sometimes you could fly in there. I mean, when you're driving, you could fly in so quickly, and other times it's like World War III.
Yeah.
From driving from West Palm to Miami, as you're well aware, sometimes it's like you might as well just give up your life and start eating your hand if you want to survive.
Yeah, no, it can be brutal. I mean, the traffic.
I've left there and gotten back to West Palm in 30 minutes at night sometimes, and other times takes 3 hours.
Yeah, no, it just depends what time of day it is, and South Florida is really there's only so many roads, and they can only go so wide down here.
Right. How many skyscrapers are they putting up down there? I mean, every time I go down there, I see more cranes putting up condos. I mean, it seems insane how much work is going on there.
I'll tell you, Mark, it looks like it's going to be similar to somewhere like Dubai.
Yeah.
Few years. I would say within 5 years, it's going to be drones everywhere, and
drones are the future.
Yeah, the locusts.
The Day of the Drones is my follow-up to Day of the Locust. You'll be seeing it on HBO. All right, well, if you got any questions, now's the time so we can wrap this up with Steve. He's got things to do. He's got kids. He's got chickens. He owns a farm. He's got eggs to take care of. Thank you, Pew Pew, for thanking him for coming with 2 M's on the show.
Yeah, Mark, it's always a pleasure, man. Thank you so much. And, for anybody that's really interested in what I'm doing, Kill the Robot Band.
Yeah.
On Instagram, go to Spotify, Kill the Robot. Western Shores is out now, and if you like what you hear, like what you see, let us know. Give us a follow, and just help us grow our little band, man.
We'll put the link down below so they can make it grow by coming right from here. What is your favorite band? You have a favorite band?
Oh man, it's so hard. I guess
that's a weird question.
It's so tough because it changes literally every day. But if I had to pick one, it's tough, man. It's between Zeppelin, Pink Floyd.
Who else you want to put in?
I love Rush, and I love the Bee Gees, man.
Okay, what about Mini Kiss?
Mini Kiss. They're less awesome than Real Kiss.
Yeah.
Real Kiss is pretty.
You love Kiss. I know you. You always loved Kiss.
Oh man, they changed my life.
They changed your life. I mean, we've talked about this.
That's my first. They were my first favorite band.
Right. A lot of people say that.
Oh, I mean
who else
is a young kid?
Elliott Smith said the same thing about Kiss. Said they were his first favorite band. Elliott Smith. What about David Lee Roth and Sammy Hagar?
Well, I mean, dude, I love Van Halen.
You love Van Halen. That was what got you to play guitar, right?
Absolutely, dude. Yeah, absolutely.
Dude,
like every other kid my age, man. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know his son, but his son kicks ass. He's doing great out there.
Is that true?
Awesome. Yeah, no, he's a badass dude in his own right.
Well, all right. Well, it's been a great conversation. I feel like I'm just talking to you in person. So
man,
it's just fun. I don't give a shit about interviews. I mean, there's a lot of this stuff I didn't know.
Yeah. I gotta ask you. Well, there's so much stuff for us to catch up on too offline and all that. But life has been very good.
Well, you look good. It sounds like you're healthy. You got your wife. I mean, that helps.
Yeah, no, I got my wife and my kids and my dog, and
you still got that white pit bull?
Oh yeah.
Oh, Whitey's still with. What a good
Whitey's
boy.
my baby.
What a good
baby.
baby.
My baby. Yeah.
He's not in the house with you, is he?
No.
Okay.
She's actually at home.
Right.
But you know,
Didn't
I
you
mean,
pick her up off the road one day? Was that, did you
she
get it?
showed up on my front doorstep
Oh, right.
during the pandemic, and I was
Looking
going to
for
clean her
looking
up,
for a
and
home.
yeah, and I was just wanted to try and get her back to whoever her owners were, and nobody wanted her, and by the time we figured out where she came from or what she was about, that was it. There was no way I was giving her back.
Oh,
You know,
that's a good dog story.
yeah,
Yeah.
the best.
I'm going to ask every single person to tell their dog stories when they come on here. That's going to be one of the
Man,
themes from now
dogs
on.
are the best. They're the best. Come
Well, Steve,
on.
thank you for
Yeah.
stopping by. It's been a
Thank you for
pleasure
having
to
me.
talk to you. A lot of fun. I'm sorry we missed the first episode, but now you're in episode 4. You've achieved immortality on What's Up with
Oh,
Lordbuckly. I hope you get some biltong at some point and start to chew the meat and
well,
learn what that's about.
I love biltong,
I,
and shout out to my, God rest his soul, Frank. Was the guy that introduced me to biltong years ago, and I got to get me some of that because I love biltong.
Dude, it's great. I got hooked on this stuff. It's really great. Really
Yeah,
great. I highly recommend it.
awesome,
Okay.
man.
Steve, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you,
Uh,
brother. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
you.
Love you. We'll talk on
Love
the
you, buddy.
phone. Thank you.
All right, talk to you soon, Mark. Take care,
Okay,
buddy.
bro. Okay.
Bye bye.